Now to the battle that's raging off the small Victorian port of Hastings. Locals are at war over the fate of HMAS Ottawa, and they're not going down without a fight. They've even called in the big guns, the Royals.
The Princess christens Ottawa with the best Australian champagne.
Open main vents. Open main vents, roger.
HMAS Ottawa is the fifth Oberon-class submarine from the Scott Lithgow yard. Here's wishing her, and as they say, all who sail in her, a distinguished career.
Ottawa is the last of her line. She was the last submarine, Oberon-class submarine built in the world, and she was the last Oberon-class submarine to be decommissioned. And it was the last one of Australia's 6 submarines, and played a huge role within the Cold War era. And she deserves to be preserved, absolutely deserves to be preserved.
She was a ghost of the oceans, stealthy, silent, and to all intents and purposes, invisible.
Coming down now slowly, sir. Keep 54 feet. Keep 54 feet.
43 years later, marooned off the small Victorian port of Hastings, the sub that spied for Australia is about to be scuttled. Never fired a torpedo in anger, HMAS Ottawa, but boy, is there a battle raging now. The bureaucrats versus the townsfolk. Could call it the Battle of Hastings.
Well, it's bully boy tactics, it's simple as that.
Max Bryant says HMAS Ottawa brought ashore would be a ripping tourist attraction. Parks Victoria, which manages the port, reckons she'd be a ripping prospect as scrap metal. It says the sub poses an environmental hazard and is costing too much to keep safe.
Is HMAS Ottawa a danger?
Absolutely not.
Max runs the Western Port Oberon Association Museum. They bought the sub for $55,000 and paid $316,000 to have it towed from WA to Victoria. The idea, bring tourism to the area and create jobs for young people. Can you put a price on this amazing piece of maritime history? Parks Victoria says you can, and they have. So they've put an offer to the locals.
$1, it's an insult, absolute insult.
What do you think of the fact that Parks Victoria want to cut this thing up?
I reckon it's a disgrace.
Well, this is your ex-home, your former home. For what, 15 months you lived on it?
Yeah.
And you did missions and sorties and whatever?
Yeah. Exercises around Australia, around in the Pacific and the Indian Oceans, yes.
David Hall was one of 68 crew on the spy sub. He was the chef. And what happened on the sub, listening to the Chinese and the Russians 200 metres below the surface, stays on the sub.
So it was a mystery tour?
That's right.
Until it wasn't, until you were told?
Well, mystery tours are still mystery tours.
And we've had our own mystery tour with the bureaucrats at Parks Victoria. They won't talk to us about the Ottawa. Instead, they nominated Malcolm Gear, CEO of the Port of Hastings, as their substitute.
Right, well, look, I don't speak on behalf of Parks Victoria.
Oh, yes, but you do, because they've given you permission to speak on their behalf.
Well, I won't be speaking on behalf of Parks Victoria because, look, from my perspective, the only thing that I can talk about is what we've done for the submarine.
I love the bureaucracy. I know you don't think that's funny, but seriously, I love the bureaucracy. You can talk on behalf of us. No, I'm not going to talk on behalf of you. They won't talk to us.
Anyway, enough. Mr Gear says the Port Authority has been hard at it protecting the sub, which broke its moorings and almost sank during a big storm in June.
Do you think the sub is a safety hazard?
In terms of navigation, yeah, it's been a safety hazard on a number of occasions.
Look, they're concerned the batteries are still on board.
What are the batteries?
There's 500 tonne of lead-acid batteries that are below deck line. They're in a sealed compartment, but they're there to also to stabilise the vessel. They act like a keel on a yacht to stabilise it. And the only way we can get the batteries out of the submarine is to bring it on shore.
The bottom line, Parks Victoria says the sub is deteriorating and costing taxpayers thousands of dollars a day to keep stable. It wants ownership of the sub transferred to the state so the sub can be disposed of.
The cost of doing this would be we believe, well in excess of $4 million.
And how much would it cost to restore the sub?
To bring it ashore, which is what we've been trying to do for 20 years, would cost probably $500,000 at the very, very most.
Another 300 grand to restore it, and the local economy, says Max, would have a right royal tourist attraction.
I wrote to Princess Anne and told her about the proposal for Parks Victoria to cut the submarine up for scrap, and she wrote back immediately and said she was very, very concerned that they wanted to destroy Atama.
Parks Victoria wants to cut it up.
Of course they do.
What do you think of that?
That's disgusting. Why would you do that to a piece of history?
Local Tim Farrell and his sons are big fans of the Atama.
So if this sub came ashore and was restored, you reckon 100% people would want to come and pay to see it?
110% they would, 110%. Plus what it does for the local economy, local shops, local businesses.
What's the sub like inside?
Internally, the submarine is in pristine condition. Needs a good clean, but otherwise it's in a condition where the submariners have just walked off.
50 feet navigation, 6 degrees power now.
I mean, what does she mean to you?
It means a lot because I served on it. Every submariner will say the same, no matter. I mean, I served on 2 other vessels as well, and we say the same. But you bonded crew.